Okay, so tonight we're doing something a little different.
Yeah.
We're going to deep dive into a fictional story called Sod Koten.
Interesting.
Um, translates to the pasted text. And I got to say,
Hmm.
the excerpts you sent
Yeah.
definitely sent chills down my spine.
Yeah.
Dealing with mysterious phone calls in the dead of night, escalating dread,
Yeah.
and a protagonist who vanishes without a trace.
That's scary stuff.
So, what can we learn from Sarah's experience?
Well, I think one of the things that makes this story so effective is how it just grabs you right from the start.
Yeah.
That 2:13 a.m. call from an unknown number.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it taps into a universal unease we all share.
Absolutely. Who hasn't felt that jolt of anxiety?
Right.
When you see a call from a number you don't recognize,
Yeah.
especially late at night.
Exactly. And the author really skillfully uses sound, or rather the lack of it, to build that tension.
Yeah.
The silence, the breathing on the other end of the line,
Oh, it's so creepy.
creates an intensely eerie atmosphere.
You know, when I was reading the description of that first call,
Yeah.
I was completely hooked. It really sets the stage for the psychological torment that she's going to face.
Right. And it highlights a crucial point about horror. It's
Okay.
not always about what we see, but what we hear or imagine we hear,
Right.
playing on our primal feels of the unknown.
And then those calls escalate, moving from whispers to a distorted voice.
Right.
This isn't just some random prank call.
No,
This feels deliberate,
it feels calculated.
which makes it even more frightening.
I'm curious what you make of that voice.
Like
What do you think its distorted quality suggests?
Well, to me, it immediately makes me think of something unnatural, something otherworldly.
Yeah,
It definitely adds to the mystery and the horror,
absolutely.
leaving the reader to wonder if this is a human or something else entirely.
That ambiguity is fascinating, and it also connects to a very modern anxiety.
Okay.
The fear of the unseen, the untraceable in the digital age. We leave so much of ourselves online. The idea that someone could manipulate or distort that information is unsettling.
Yeah, it's like the caller is taking on this warped, almost monstrous quality through that voice.
Exactly.
And it's terrifying because it becomes harder to rationalize or explain.
It feeds our imagination, allows our fears to take over.
Yeah.
And, the author cleverly uses these audio cues to create vivid visuals in the reader's mind.
Oh, for sure.
Even though we're dealing with a primarily auditory experience,
Right.
you can practically see the shadowy figures, that menacing figure outside the window.
That's what struck me, too.
Yeah.
The story reads like a horror film playing out in your head.
Yeah.
You feel Sarah's growing paranoia and helplessness.
And that feeling of isolation is key to the story's effectiveness.
Okay.
It plays on a fundamental human fear, being alone, cut off from help, facing the unknown, without anyone to turn to.
And then there's the phone itself.
Right.
It's not just a communication device. It becomes a weapon,
Yeah.
a tool of terror, and that resonates with me,
Of course.
especially considering how reliant we are on our phones today.
That's what I find so thought-provoking about this story.
Yeah.
It taps into our anxieties about technology and privacy.
Hmm.
This device that connects us to the world can also be used to invade our lives, to manipulate and control us.
Yeah, it is a chilling thought. I mean, how many times have we ignored a call
Right.
from an unknown number or felt a little creeped out by a targeted ad?
Exactly.
This story takes those everyday fears and just magnifies them.
And it makes you wonder,
It does.
are those fears unfounded? Or is there something more sinister lurking beneath the surface of our hyper-connected world?
Okay, now I'm really starting to get creeped out. I want to know what happens next.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned those everyday fears because there's this one passage in the story that really struck me.
Okay.
Sarah sees a figure outside her window, but when she pulls back the curtain, there's nothing there.
Oh, that scene gave me chills.
Yeah.
It's such a classic horror trope, playing with our perception of reality.
Right.
For a moment, you're right there with Sarah questioning what's real and what's not.
And that's the power of fear, isn't it?
Yeah.
It distorts our perception, makes us see threats where there might be none. In a way, the story is kind of mirroring that process, making us complicit in her paranoia.
And then there's that technology aspect again.
Right.
We tend to think of our homes as safe spaces.
Yeah,
But this story reminds us that even those boundaries can be blurred in the digital age.
for sure.
A figure appearing outside the window coupled with the harassing phone calls.
Yeah,
It creates this sense of inescapable dread.
exactly. The story forces us to confront the idea that the unknown can penetrate the walls we build around ourselves, both physically and psychologically.
And the phone calls become increasingly personal, more threatening.
Absolutely.
It's as if the caller is slowly stripping away Sarah's sense of safety, her control over her own life.
What stands out to you about the way those messages escalate?
It's the slow, deliberate nature of it that I find so disturbing. It's not a sudden burst of terror,
Right.
but this gradual, insidious erosion of Sarah's peace of mind.
Yeah.
Each call chips away at her defenses, making her more vulnerable, more isolated.
It's like psychological torture carefully orchestrated to break her down.
Yeah. And then, of course, we have that chilling ending.
Right.
Sarah disappears, leaving behind that final cryptic message, gone to answer the call.
It's haunting.
That ending is what truly haunts me.
Mm-hmm.
It's so open-ended, so ambiguous.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
Well, the story leaves it open to interpretation.
It does.
Was Sarah abducted? Did she willingly go with the caller?
Right.
Or was it something else entirely?
Yeah.
The author deliberately avoids giving us concrete answers,
Right.
forcing us to confront the unsettling nature of the unknown.
And that phrase, answer the call, is so loaded with meaning.
Absolutely.
It suggests a sense of inevitability,
For sure.
as if she had no choice but to confront whatever was calling her.
That's a brilliant observation. And it makes me think about the different ways we can interpret the call.
Okay.
Is it a literal phone call? Is it a symbolic representation of her fears?
Right.
Or something else entirely?
Right.
The story invites us to grapple with those questions, to find our own meaning in the ambiguity.
Let's play devil's advocate for a moment.
Okay.
What if there's a more rational explanation for her disappearance? Maybe she staged her own disappearance, leaving that message to throw people off her trail.
That's certainly a possibility. The story doesn't shy away from presenting us with multiple interpretations.
Right.
Perhaps Sarah was tired of her life, felt trapped, and saw this as a way to escape. It speaks to the story's ability to spark debate, to challenge our assumptions about what's real and what's imagined.
I love that the story doesn't spoon-feed us answers.
Yeah,
It encourages us to engage with the material.
for sure.
Think critically, come to our own conclusions.
Right.
So, what do you think?
Yeah.
Dear listener,
What's your take on Sarah's disappearance?
was it supernatural, a stalker, a desperate attempt to escape a mundane life, or something else entirely?
And more importantly,
Yeah.
how does this story make you feel about your own relationship with technology? Do you feel a sense of unease, knowing how easily it can be used to manipulate and control?
Right.
Or do you see it as a neutral tool with the potential for both good and evil depending on the user?
Right.
These are the questions this story wants us to grapple with.
It's not just a scary story.
It's not.
It's a reflection on our anxieties,
Yes.
our reliance on technology, and the fear of the unknown that permeates modern life.
Yeah, it's a story that really stays with you.
It does.
Long after you finish reading it.
Yeah.
And it makes you question how safe we really are in this increasingly interconnected world.
Right.
We think of technology as this neutral tool,
Right.
but this story really illustrates how it can be used
Yeah.
to manipulate, intimidate, even terrorize.
And it highlights, I think, a fundamental shift.
In the nature of fear itself. In my past, we feared what we could see,
Right.
what was tangible and immediate.
Right.
But now our fears are often more abstract,
Okay.
tied to these invisible forces that shape our digital lives.
Yeah.
Data breaches, surveillance,
Right.
the potential for manipulation and control.
This story brings those abstract fears to life,
It does.
giving them a chillingly concrete form
Yeah,
in the shape of these mysterious phone calls.
absolutely.
It's a reminder that the most terrifying monsters
Right.
aren't always lurking in the shadows.
Yeah,
Sometimes they're hiding in plain sight,
they are.
disguised as the very things we depend on.
And it makes you think about all the ways
It does.
we interact with technology without really understanding the potential consequences.
Right?
We readily share personal information online,
We do?
connect with strangers through social media,
Yeah.
allow apps to track our every move.
Right?
It's a trade-off we often make without really comprehending the risks.
This story forces us to confront those risks head on,
It does.
to acknowledge the darker side of our digital lives.
Yeah.
It's a sobering thought, especially in an age where our lives are so intertwined with technology.
It is a reminder that That line between our world and the world of the unknown
Right.
is perhaps thinner than we might think.
Yeah.
And sometimes that unknown is just a phone call away.
So what would you do if you were in Sarah's shoes? Would you answer the call or let it go straight to voicemail?
And how would you react if those messages started to escalate?
Yeah.
Became more personal, more threatening?
Right.
Would you try to ignore them? Or would you confront the unknown, hoping to find answers?
Right.
Even if those answers might be more terrifying than the silence.
You know, it's a question worth pondering.
It is.
Because, in a way, we're all facing those choices every day.
Yeah.
Do we engage with the unknown, with the potential risks that come with our hyper-connected lives?
Right.
Or do we retreat into a false sense of security, hoping that if we ignore the darkness, it will simply go away?
That's a powerful question to leave our listeners with.
It is.
You know, the pasted text isn't just a chilling horror story.
No.
It's a mirror reflecting our anxieties about technology, privacy, and the uneasy relationship we have with the unknown in the digital age.
It really is.
It challenges us to confront those anxieties head on.
Right.
To think critically about our choices and to be mindful of that thin line that separates the familiar from the unsettling.
Well, on that chilling note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the pasted text. It's been an unsettling,
it has,
but incredibly thought-provoking journey.
And for our listeners, if you find yourself lying awake tonight, staring at your phone, wondering if it might be buzzing, with a call from the unknown, remember Sarah's story and ask yourself, would you answer the call?
And if you're brave enough to seek out the full story, we'll leave a link in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Sweet dreams, everyone.